Welcome to Pharmacy View, Technology and Pharmacy Business podcast series, where we provide regular interviews with pharmacists and key industry people within the Australian pharmacy and associated industry. In each podcast, we look to discuss aspects of pharmacy operation and how technology is improving or interacting with each guest's current role or pharmacy-related business. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter, and today's guest is sponsored by Shopfront Solutions, leading the way in digital marketing and communications, providing a cloud-based platform for pharmacies to manage all of their digital messaging and print-based collateral. For more information on the Shopfront Solutions digital platform, simply go to the website at shopfrontsolutions.com.au. I'm talking today with Julian Sallabank, CEO and Managing Director of Corum Group Australia. Welcome, Julian.
Thanks, Scott, and nice to be a part of your program today.
It's my pleasure. It's great to have some people from within the industry participating in this. But I guess before we get into the technology side of our chat, my research on yourself and your background is quite extensive. For anyone listening today that may not know you, who is Julian?
Thanks for a very open-ended question to start off the proceedings, Scott. So, as mentioned, I do have a bit of a varied background. I started life as a management consultant working in financial services and international trade before moving into my own businesses. So I started running a business that was a precursor to Facebook and LinkedIn. So back in the mid to late 90s. After that time, I after working in that business for about 10 years, exited and went and ran a family offices business over in WA, which was an organisation that I was running, which is called Student Edge, which turned into now Australia's largest student membership with 1.2 million Australians as members, aged between sort of 12 and 25. After doing that, I said I'd do it for only a couple of years, but I stayed on for about four plus years, and then moved into more executive roles as well as sort of board roles, which took me into a range of either listed businesses or a variety of different organisations and industries, which included payments, international student payments, as well as health through the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, and then larger listed businesses like the Ignite Group, which had offices around Australia, Southeast Asia, and China. So as an individual, I've worked across a range of different industries, which has exposed me to a range of different, amazing people. And I was fortunate enough when I was in Western Australia running the Student Edge business to meet with some lifelong friends, and one of the individuals that I caught up with there was a guy by the name of David Manuel, who is one of the directors of Sigma. I've always had close ties to universities. Most recently, I've been on the Alumni Advisory Board for the University of New South Wales. I sit on the advisory committee for the AGSM, where I did my master's study in business and technology, and also I'm an industry partner at Melbourne University. And when I came back to Melbourne after being in Western Australia for a while, I was asked by Melbourne Uni to try and foster some industry relationships. And on the back of a discussion with Dave Manuel, actually was thrust into an opportunity with Sigma and one of their groups, the Nostradata guys. So with Mike DeGama and Jim Zenos, I spent a couple of years working with them, unpicking and unraveling the let's say the data that's collected and what that really means to the broader marketplace. So there was some amazing insights that we were able to yield for the Sigma team as well as Nostradata, which led into a range of continuing discussions. And that centred on one opportunity, which was around MedAdvisor. So I know most recently, Scott, you've caught up with Rob Reed on your podcast, and I was one of the inaugural sort of advisory board members within MedAdvisor. And that was leveraging the experience I had, I suppose, running the precursor to a Facebook and a LinkedIn, and also the relationships that I had through the Student Edge days, where I grew that membership from several thousand to 1.2 million members, as I mentioned before, and there was a lot of opportunities there to be able to support the MedAdvisor guys to be able to assist them with their rollout. I was fortunate at that point in time as well to catch up with Nick England, who was also one of the inaugural board members for MedAdvisor, and with Nick and Dave and let's say there was a variety of other pharmacists and industry individuals. We were able to continue some terrific associations and work. And that took us to a range of different areas, and one actually, which is very coincidental, was about 6 years ago with the Corum Group. And at the time, I was the entrepreneur in residence at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, and I've continued to do a lot of work with them. But my role effectively is to assist with the commercialization of medical research. And one of the initiatives that we thought was really lacking in the Australian marketplace was an incubator and an accelerator for anyone trying to embark upon digital health initiatives. So this was at about the time when I was working with Jim and Mike, and it was just at the embryonic stages of MedAdvisor. In fact, before Rob Reed had joined, and we thought that there was a terrific opportunity to be able to not only provide some monetary support, but also align some businesses with key opinion leaders and access to marketplaces whereby they could take their terrific innovations and submit them and commercialise them through the network. So at that time, I engaged with a whole range of different partners, and one of the partners that we had as part of that medical research incubation and acceleration program was Corum, as we saw that there was a terrific opportunity for individuals that are looking to commercialise their products and services into health to be able to use pharmacy as that channel. And as I think we've seen over the last 10, 20 years, the landscape in terms of the services that pharmacies provide has really increased. And it now represents 10 to 15% of a pharmacist's revenues. And through the relationship that we established with the Corum Group, we were able to get a bit of a deeper insights into the role that a new service or a new product could provide when looking at how that could integrate into point of sale or dispense or head office technologies. So since that time, I think I've stayed in close contact with Dave Manuel, as I mentioned, and Nick England, and an opportunity presented a couple of years ago now to join Nick England on the board of Corum. And I was very fortunate in the end of August, beginning of September in 2020 to be able to then take on an executive role within the Corum Group. So it's been an exciting and diversified experience set, but certainly one that is really coming together now and providing some really interesting opportunities for the team at Corum.
Cool.
And
So Julian, one of the things that's come out there quite interesting is I do know David Manuel quite well. I haven't spoken to him for some time, and I guess prior to my pharmacy time, which is 20 years ago now, I hadn't had a lot to do with Western Australia. And it's interesting as I talk to people within the industry, the impact or the interaction that Western Australia actually has on the Australian pharmacy market. I don't think people realise the extent that it's all intertwined. I know sometimes people think that Western Australia is its own little province, sometimes the eastern province of South Africa, but in actual fact, it's having quite a big impact. And I was pleasing to hear that interaction has happened with you as well, with David, and continues to happen from what I can see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing about West Australians, they're extremely parochial. I was shocked, Scott. One of the very first weekends that we had a long weekend was Founders Day, and I sort of scratched my head and said, "Founders Day? What's Founders Day?" And it was when Dirk Hartog in 1627 founded Australia, of course, Julian, which was quite amusing. But you're very right, Scott. I think. West Australians are forced by just the nature of the location in which they operate to really think outside the box. So, they're really ingenious and innovative in terms of what they come up with.
Yeah.
And it's surprising to be able to see, I think, the innovation that's coming out of Western Australia now in particular.
Yeah.
You've got some terrific accelerators and co-working spaces. You've got a real culture over there that's raised organisations like Health Engine, as an example. And when I first went over to Perth, I was fortunate enough as well to catch up with Marcus Tan before he'd embarked on Health Engine, and I spent a lot of time with him. And my sort of involvement and help, I introduced him to his cornerstone seed fund investor, who managed to really take them and accelerate them in the Australian landscape. There are a number of different examples, Scott, and it's I think the one thing that we can say about Australia as a whole is that it's not just Western Australia that's innovative, it's the entire Australian market. And we're really fortunate. We've got some terrific students, and we've got some terrific organisations that are prepared to back people.
And look, it's I guess another interesting perspective from me is that in my time, I've got to know a lot of pharmacists and a lot of key executives in the pharmacy industry, but quite a few of us are probably getting towards the end of our career. But what I really do enjoy is the interaction with the younger pharmacists coming through, because they think differently. And it's not that it's necessarily better or worse. It's just that they're coming through an age that, to us, or to me anyway, I mentioned someone the other day that, I started schooling when we were using slide rules, for example, and I've seen that whole transition. I didn't have an abacus, but I certainly had a slide rule, and I've seen that whole transition through all of the computer systems in Australia. But when you're talking to a young pharmacist today, they don't necessarily know that history. They only know what is today. And the acceleration of technology today is quite incredible. And you're right. One of the things I really enjoy about this podcast series is that I get to talk to people with different perspectives on technology. And, I've got, to put it into a family perspective, I've got two mature sons. One's a builder, as we mentioned before. The other one's actually a software developer who's just actually transitioned into the REA group. And so I get to have two great conversations on any one day, one about what's happening in the building industry, but more importantly, what's happening in the IT industry. So this whole genre that's coming through, I think, is going to be, I'm going to be, really excited to watch the next couple of years and see what's happened and what COVID, I think, has done to it as well. But about Corum.
Absolutely.
From a Corum perspective, I guess I knew that, or one of its subsets was, when I first joined, was the AMFAC program, and I guess that was my first foray into pharmacy dispensing. But what I guess I knew about your platform is that it's not just a dispensing platform; is that there's much more these days. Talk to us about Corum.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So as an organisation, we've been in the industry. I think we're the elder statesman when it comes to providing services to groups in the Australian marketplace. We have had a number of programs, as you mentioned, AMFAC. Most notably for Corum Group, it's probably our LOTS program. And a lot of people, even when I was at my first APP earlier this year, when I mentioned that I was with Corum, a lot of people turned around and said, "Oh, that's LOTS, isn't it?" I said, "It is LOTS." And I think it's really interesting to be able to see how we've managed to evolve our brand and our products over the years, Scott. So certainly there's a big focus on point of sale and head office capabilities, and we work with a number of the large retail groups in Australia, providing them with head office capabilities, which is it's really focused on a couple of key things. Like with dispensing, it's really focused on efficiencies, and for us, our organisation is also really focused then on profitability. So how we can support head offices to manage the relationship that they have with their stores is, it's a key ingredient with regards to what we focus on. And I think, as we see, the trends that are coming about, Scott, you mentioned, the rise of technology. I think certainly, we've been really fortunate in the Australian marketplace. If we look at the fact that we've been able to navigate the COVID experience probably without a number of lockdowns, which have really impacted everyone, both mentally and it's been a challenge. But when you look at the impact from a population perspective, we're nowhere near as impacted as the likes of Europe or in America. But one of the benefits that's come out of that is the Australian government's real support with regards to driving innovation, and certainly from the e-script perspective and telehealth, as really, I think, people have been championing and really trying to encourage the government to open that up over the last 20 years. And it's been very, very slow progress. And then suddenly something like COVID happens, and it's amazing how quickly we can mobilise. And one of the really interesting points there is I always sort of make specific mention of it, which is everything shut down in my local community when we went into lockdown, except for my pharmacist.
Yes.
And the staff there were the backbone of my community. And I've said it a number of times, and I'll keep on saying it, that the pharmacists in our local community are what binds us together and what keeps people going. And certainly through that lockdown, when you knew that you could go and get a Ventolin, or you could go and get a script filled by your pharmacist, and they were always open, they were always going to help you out. I think that was just a testament to the not only the commitment that pharmacists have, but also the significant position that they have in our community. And certainly, having to fill scripts for my elderly mum on a pretty regular basis when she was unable to get to her pharmacy, I really benefited, I think, from some of those technologies that we were talking about earlier, Scott. And for Corum, I think we see that this is a terrific opportunity, not just for us, but everyone that's providing services into pharmacy, to be able to really be able to continue that transition into what the next generation will look like. And I think I always refer back to a quote that Bill Gates mentioned, which was the fact that we sort of overestimate the timeframes, what we can do in the next 2 years, but we grossly underestimate what we can deliver in 10.
Yeah.
And when you have a look at what we've been able to deliver in the last 2 years, I'm really excited about where the future is going to be taking us. And I think we'll see some significant leapfrogging in terms of not only our population, in terms of embracing new ways, but also how that can be delivered. And we mentioned before, the likes of MedAdvisor. You've got other organisations out there like either your Strong Room. So I think you've interviewed before, Scott, or your MedMates. People that are really looking at how 1 + 1 can equal more than 2. And I think at Corum we're certainly looking at that. We've been able to assemble a board that is really, I think, behind a lot of the innovation that's happened in the marketplace, but as well really instrumental in terms of where we're going. So Nick England is a 35-year veteran of pharmacy. He's run significantly large organisations overseas, and he's been a stalwart of the Australian marketplace since he came to Australia over the last 10 years, working with the executives of all of the main sort of wholesalers and head offices. We've been able to complement that with the likes of Dennis Bastos, who is really a significant player in the industry, but also he really is driven by the need to be able to deliver better health outcomes to individuals, and really he's never satisfied with regards to what can be provided at this point in time, and is always pushing and stretching what the possibilities are. So to be able to have someone like a Nick and a Dennis driving from a pharmacy place is fantastic. And as an organisation, we've rounded out our board with Jane Shaw, who's a serial health entrepreneur. She's a nurse by training, but has developed, bought and sold a whole range of businesses. She's now just listed a business called BCal, which does breast cancer analysis and detection. And to round out our board, we've brought in the head of M&A from Downer, a guy by the name of John Newbury. So for us, we're well positioned, we believe, to be able to have eyes and ears on the marketplace. From an executive level, we've also brought into the organisation people like James Neville. We've also recently added a head of commercial, as well as a chief information security officer. And for us, we're wanting to make sure that we can take the insights that our customers, most importantly, are giving us, combine that with the insights of our board, and then with a really, really key experienced management team, be able to deliver some of those exciting innovations that we're going to see into the coming months and years ahead.
And talking of which, that is a very strong executive team and a board sitting behind that. So what does the future look like with Corum?
Well, most recently, Scott, probably the largest news from an organisation perspective is when I came in as an executive in the organisation. We also took over the custodianship of Pharmex. So as an organisation, we're charged now with not only providing dispense, point of sale and head office technologies and a range of ancillary products, but also the management and growth of Pharmex. So for us as an organisation, it really ties in with the two areas of our focus, which is delivering greater efficiencies in the marketplace and then also increasing profitability. So Pharmex is the backbone of ordering and invoicing for the majority of the marketplace. We are very fortunate in terms of the relationships that have been built up over the last 15 years. But for us, we're really interested again in being able to leapfrog and be able to provide more. So as an organisation, as a group, we can see that there's some logical extensions with regards to what we provide from a Pharmex perspective. Certainly, we're very interested to be able to look at how we can augment payments throughout our industry and provide greater access to information flow. So Pharmex for us is about connectivity. For us, it's about connecting pharmacists to suppliers and wholesalers, and then it's about driving utilisation. So there are a range of areas that we've been in discussions with our customers, most importantly, as I mentioned before, who are guiding us and directing us with regards to what we need to be delivering. And then from a technological perspective, as you mentioned, Scott, we're living in an age which is certainly akin to nothing like we've seen in terms of being able to deliver interoperability with regards to EDIs, talking to databases, talking to customers. And that's really been the backbone, I think, of a lot of the innovation that we've seen over the last sort of 5 years. But certainly it'll be a driving force moving forward. So for us at Corum, we really see that there's the ability for us to continue to deliver great services, stability, but also be able to drive greater utilisation of the platforms that we've created and delivering for us through a range of ancillary services that are natural in terms of the extension that we provide, a significant increase in the efficiencies that we can deliver in the industry, but most importantly, the profitability. Okay. And that particularly speaks to the pharmacists that we were talking about before.
Absolutely. Julian, we're coming to the end of our time. Is there anything else on your list that we haven't covered at this point in time?
Look, I think we could probably speak for a number of hours, Scott. I think what I'd probably say is that as an industry, it's terrific to be able to see the camaraderie as well. I sort of call it competition, Scott. Mm-hmm. We work with our partners as much as we compete with them. But I think the advantage of that when you're talking about the rise and the influence that technology has is that it leads to a better outcome ultimately for our end users. That's either the head offices, the suppliers, the wholesalers, but most importantly, the people of Australia and beyond. I think as an organisation, there are a few industries that you can work in where you really know that you're making a difference, and that you can leave every day knowing that your part has made a bit of an impact on the life of either someone in your local community or broader, the environment in which health is delivered. So for us as an organisation, I think we're committed to be able to continue to innovate. I think as an organisation, we're embracing, I think, the market. And where possible, as I mentioned with regards to the initial foray into a relationship with Corum, it was really centred on the delivery of the Bites for Health program, which is the incubator for digital health and broader health. For us at Corum, we really see that there's a terrific opportunity to be able to continue that story with the board and the executive that we've put together. And most importantly, we're really excited about the growth that we can generate. I think as an organisation, it's as much organic growth as it is augmented by either acquisitions and or the ability for us to partner effectively with either established businesses or new entrants in the market. And, it's a really exciting time, Scott, and I look forward to being able to come back maybe in the next 12 or 18 months to be able to give you a bit of an update as to what we've been able to deliver.
We've gone from there. Julian, thanks very much for your time today.
Terrific. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for listening today. Pharmacy View is a technology-focused podcast provided by Melbourne-based business Arian Technologies and Shopfront Solutions. Over the podcast series, our guests include pharmacists, retail managers, wholesalers, suppliers, and industry technology partners. If you would like further information on our podcast series or to participate in one of our episodes, feel free to send me a message or touch base through the Pharmacy View website, pharmacyview.com.au.